Welcome to the In-Between-Man podcast, where men can be men. It's true. I'm not lying to you. All right, today we are going over headline number 3. And headline number 3 goes something like this. Men are isolated, feel like no one cares about them, and are pessimistic about their romantic prospects. Headline number 3. All right. So let's get into a little bit of some of the nuances and some of the data that speaks to this specific topic. Okay. So increasing social disconnection and isolation. Social disconnection and isolation represent profound challenges in contemporary society, particularly affecting mental health and well-being. Let me see if I can turn this over a little bit. There we go. In the United States, the Surgeon General and many other public health officials agree on one core aspect of the American experience. There is an epidemic of loneliness. As a 2023 advisory by the Surgeon General noted, loneliness levels, especially for young men, have gone up every year between 1976 and 2019. Okay? The consequences of social isolation extend far beyond temporary feelings of loneliness, potentially contributing to severe mental health crisis, including suicidal ideations. And then this is the last one that I want to also point out as well. A recent scoping analysis by Norton and Valmeri that included 13 studies with 856 total participants from Western countries found that masculine ideals of self-reliance and invulnerability prevent men from seeking help or expressing vulnerability. Paradoxically, increasing loneliness, social bonding often occurs through rejecting diversity, feminine, non-heterosexual, and non-white traits, are using derogatory banter to maintain masculine identity, and some men successfully reinvent masculinity by challenging traditional norms, allowing for deeper emotional connections while preserving their masculine identity. Yes. So before we get into some more of the data, I just want to go on a brief rant here and simply say to you that I do wholeheartedly believe, and part of what we're trying to do here on the In-Between Man podcast is lay a foundation for us to understand the dynamics that men are living in today. The social dynamics, the cultural dynamics, the relationship dynamics. Why are we lonely? Why is there a mental health crisis, right? So that you can get a foundation where you might be able to say to yourself, I understand after experiencing and talking about some challenges, mental health challenges, or any other problems or feelings in general, that because that was an uncomfortable process for me, that I can still be masculine, right? Like you could still be having masculine traits without having misogyny. How do we do that? Well, we're going to talk about that. I think there's many different ways that we can consider doing that. But I think most importantly, we want to make sure that we understand that I am not trying to convince you that I am right about everything that I'm saying. I'm saying to you that I believe women have a greater role in their responsibility on helping men. I feel like right now they aren't doing that for many reasons. But in order for men and women to get along, we have to be on equal footing, which means that we have to come from a place of partnership, especially if it's romantic. All right. And I do believe that women will have, whether they like it or not, will or won't have a vested interest in making sure that men, when they are vulnerable and they are talking about emotional trauma, they aren't ridiculed and told that they're bad. All right. Because anyway, I don't want to go on too much of a rant, and I just did. I'm sorry. All right. So let's get into this bullet point. Disconnection and isolation, which is the core topic for headline number 3. Men and women face loneliness, isolation, and disconnection. Okay? I'm going to read this statement, and you will see how many people, based on the survey, agree with it. The statement is, no one really knows me. 53% of men agree with this statement. 52% of women agree with that statement. Half, almost a little bit more than half the population in this study feels like no one really knows me. My interests and ideas are not shared by those around me. 47% of men agree with that statement. 41% of women agree with that statement. And how about this? I think it's better if I keep some parts of myself hidden. 58% of men agree with that statement. And what's shocking, but maybe not so much, is 45% of women agree with that also. So this just isn't a male thing, right? Women are facing loneliness, isolation, and disconnection. So are men. So are men. It's sad. Headline number 3, disconnection and isolation, bullet point number 2. The youngest men and women feel the most unworthy of love. The youngest men and women feel the most unworthy of love. Percentage of men and women by age who agree with this statement. I don't think anyone can fall in love with me. Between the ages of 18 and 24, for both men and women, 34% of people in this population agree with that statement. Between the ages of 25 and 34, for both men and women, 25% of the population in this study agrees with that statement. And for the ages between 35 and 45, 24% of both men and women agree with that statement. They agree with the statement, I don't think anyone can fall in love with me. I mean, you want to talk about isolation? Wow. All right. I don't mean to be redundant, but staying on the headline theme, disconnection and isolation, a majority of men feel like no one cares if men are okay. And a substantial portion of women agree. All right. So 57% of the full sample reports that no one cares if men are okay. So that's 57% of the 2,500 people in the sampled in this survey. The youngest men agree with this the most. Okay? And then here we go. A percentage of respondents by age who agree with this statement. No one cares if men are okay. Between the ages of 18 and 24, men, 69% agree with that statement, where women only agree with it 50% between the ages of 18 and 24. Between the ages of 25 and 34, 67% of men agree with that statement. No one cares if men are okay. And 49% of females or women agree with that statement, that no one cares if men are okay. And lastly, between the ages of 35 and 45, 60% of men agree that no one cares if men are okay. And 32% of women agree that no one cares if men are okay. Like why is that? And I'll just go off on a small tangent that may or may not make any sense. So you've been warned. But for such a long period of time, women have had to struggle with a lot more than what men are struggling with today. Full disclosure. Okay. And what's happened is dynamics have changed, social norms have changed, and cultural norms have changed that have benefited women. And I think that they feel like, it's been way overdue, right? They're going to be focusing more on themselves individually. And we can see through their behavior how well that's going, right? But I think it could be from just the reality that they finally got heard. They finally feel like they're having their say in some areas, not all areas. And, that doesn't surprise me that data is a lot lower than it is for men. That's just my opinion. And I'm entitled to it. Staying with the headline number 3, disconnection and isolation. Feeling isolated has strong effects on mental health. Men who say that no one really knows me are 2.2 times as likely to have thought about suicide in the past 2 weeks. This is the strongest for men with economic anxiety. So remember, economic anxiety, as we talked about in the first headline, is just not knowing whether or not you're going to lose your job, the financial insecurity that comes with it. You don't know, what are you going to be able to provide? How does that work? The stress that's involved with that is more when they have that. Women who say that no one really knows me are 3.4 times as likely to have thought about suicide in the past 2 weeks. So that number is higher in women. And it doesn't give any indication about economic anxiety, but it certainly could be there. But disconnection and isolation seems to be directly correlated with mental health struggles and challenges that we're facing today. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I feel disconnected and isolated. For over the last, 4+ years, going through my divorce, I haven't wanted to do anything. I've stayed at home, which is bad. I've eaten a lot of bad food. I've gotten fatter, and I'm not motivated to get out and do what I used to do even 5 years ago. I rather sit at home and isolate and stay where it feels comfortable and not open up old wounds. It's starting to change a little bit more now, but I can also tell you too that during that time I experienced mental health challenges that I had never experienced before, and I've been sober for 30 years. So, I mean, the trauma that I went through was greater than the bottom I hit before coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. That's been my experience. And the best way that I can describe how it felt for about a year was I felt like a burn victim. And I'm just trying to use that as an example because most people understand what it's like to feel burnt. You know, you burn your finger on a lighter, you're like, that bitch is going to be aching for at least a couple days, right? But for me, that feeling surrounded my entire body. I couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't move into a spot where I felt comfortable. I just was in throbbing emotional, mental health pain. You know, I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't run away from it. And I couldn't anesthetize myself by getting drunk or, you know, blowing a 3-foot tube back marijuana smoke, because that's just going to make my life that much worse. So thankfully, you know, I had people who have gone through divorces that have been ugly too, that have said it'll get better. And it gradually and slowly did. So I don't know if that helps you identify with this disconnection and isolation. But man, when I tell you, I wouldn't wish how badly I felt on anyone. And it's one of those things that you got to be patient about. Who wants to feel like they're a burn victim and also accept the fact that you don't know when it's going to end? You're like, because it's one thing to say, hey, I got to feel like this for the next 3 months. Okay, I'll grin and bear it. But I know at the end of 3 months, I'm going to be all right. In this case, that didn't happen. Like, I just want someone to tell me that it was going to be better in a month, and they couldn't. And it was 4 years of therapy sessions, 4 years of antidepressants, and it hurt real bad. Okay, so I'll stop. Let's get some more data in here. Let's figure out some more data. I mean, do you guys like this stuff? I mean, if you wanted to leave comments in the video, that would be super helpful. But I don't know how many people are going to do that, because I don't know how many people are listening to this. It doesn't matter. Just pretend there's 10,000. Okay. Sticking with disconnection and isolation, dads with more rigid ideas of fatherhood are 5.2 times as likely to report suicidal thoughts, with this likelihood being slightly higher among progressive voters. For too many dads, the pressure and isolation are associated with higher suicidal thoughts. Why is that, do you say? When I think of rigid ideas about fatherhood, I think of what I see my dad pointing his finger at me saying, stop crying. Stop fucking crying. Don't be a pussy. Don't be a pussy. Don't let that kid see that he got you. Now wipe your fucking eyes and get back on that mat. Like, that's what I think when I hear rigid ideas. Like, I'll beat it out of you, right? And for me, it worked. I believed that the notion of emotional stoicism was a valued trait. now I think it's the single greatest trait that spawns and helps fuel disconnection, isolation, mental health challenges, and just bad behavior in many areas. It just makes me sad. Fathers also just want to be seen as humans, not superheroes. Kids look at you like you're Superman. We're like anybody else. We struggle. We have difficulties. None of us are Superman. And that's a quote from a white conservative voting dad. Right? So let me just bring it full circle again while Butch is barking. I don't know who he's barking at. Who are you barking at? Can you not bark at everybody who's walking across the street? I'll edit this out. I'm recording a podcast. Okay. So let's just think through the last 3 episodes that we put together. The one, economic anxiety. All right. As a man whose primary value of a human being is directly correlated to my ability to provide, and right now we're living in an economic anxiety-filled world where the traditional norms of having economic stability as opposed to anxiety, those foundations are getting washed away, right? I mean, how many people do you know that have worked for a company for 25 years? Not many. You know, my resume has got 3-year gaps all over the place. And so men are concerned about not being able to provide to their family, not being able to provide for, you know, their grandkids. And it's a legit, not only does it dig deep from a financial standpoint, but it also has sort of blistered our opinion of ourselves. And most of the time that's negative, coupled with the fact that we're not going to talk about how bad we're feeling with this economic anxiety. We're going to stuff it. Right? So compound number 1. Compound number 2. Where is it? Men's views about masculinity are becoming more restrictive. The man box. I think a lot of people live in the man box. And let's not forget, right, this quote. Without deliberate intervention to redefine masculine success beyond economic provisions and to challenge the man box's emotional restrictions, we risk losing an entire generation of men to depression, anxiety, and despair. Now, we're not talking about a couple hundred people. We're talking about a generation. That's a fucking epidemic. Headline number 2, the man box. I'm going to start reading that quote going forward before every new episode, because that is really an important point to bring up. And then our current headline, which is number 3, which is men are isolated, feel like no one cares about them, and are pessimistic about their romantic prospects. So we're isolating because we're not talking about any of our emotions. We don't feel like we're really being cared for all that much. There's a lot of reasons that are associated with that, and we're pessimistic about romantic relationships. I know enough about me to know that when I got divorced, I have not been involved with anyone romantically, even like, you know, the massage parlors. I haven't even done that. And that I don't think is a big deal. But if I got into a relationship in the first year, second year, third year of my divorce, I would have been a fucking shit show. because the following things would have happened. I would have probably gotten really angry with having to deal with some of the relationship dynamics that we all have to deal with. And I would be resentful, like really, really resentful. And, you know, I want to work through the challenges that I'm going through still today without being distracted by a female relationship. And I've accepted the fact that the right woman will avail herself when I'm ready. So that means, in the meantime, that means I'm freaking slamming my cock in the door or using my fleshlight just to get stuff done. But that doesn't really matter either. So that's it. That's it for headline number 3. We're going to make it quick. We're going to make it easy. The next headline we're going to go over is headline number 4, obviously, which is pressure to be a provider and economic anxiety are exacerbated by when men spend time online. What have I been doing over the course of the last 4 years? Staying at home, not going out and socializing with people, not meeting anyone new. I don't go to bars or do anything like that. But now, the previous 3 headlines, the 4th headline is saying all of those get worse when I spend time online. To a factor of what? We don't know. You got to stay tuned and find out. But that's the update, gang. I wanted to keep it short. I wanted to keep it sweet. If you wanted to consider joining our private Discord server, the link is in the description. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have you. It's really a man cave kind of environment. And becoming a member, you kind of agree that you're going to be willing and open to talking about how, as a group, we can maybe consider rewriting some of the social norms, cultural norms that need to be rewritten for men, because they're just not working for us now. And I would love nothing more than that. I'd love nothing more than that. I have some plans further on down the road to help folks identify possible areas where they could seek some accountability within themselves for some personal growth. But I got the cart way too ahead of the horse. So do me a favor. Check out my YouTube shorts. They're funny. And be more like Clint Eastwood. Remember Clint Eastwood? He's right over there. That's who we want to be like, Clint Eastwood. Right? From an outside perspective, I guess. Anyway, take care of yourself. I will see you on the next one. And also, I'll see you in there.